I don't think a lot of people actually can teach all these things because a lot of what I've learned isn't just from my corporate run. It's from what I'm doing as a thought leader for a living. If I had a do-over, which I don't plan to do, these are the things that I would have done differently, or I would have amped up, or I would have focused on, and I would have gotten out of like my day-to-day grind. And I think I could have done even more amazing things, left an even bigger legacy, and had more fun doing it.
Hey, Nicole, what do you get when a former corporate CEO and a do-gooding executive walk into a recording studio?
Well, Erin, nothing, because the two of us are usually on my couch or Zoom because wine.
You get a podcast created for Gen X women who are bought into the corporate world but fed up with the BS.
I know, it's how to thrive the 9 to 5 or 6 or 7.
It's career therapy, it's comedy, it's definitely full-on authenticity. Basically, we give you tangible strategies to rise in your career without compromising everything else.
Because work doesn't have to suck.
Hey guys, it's Erin here, mano y mano. I'm recording this solo episode. Actually, this is for the first time in front of like my Zoom and not in my closet or in the basement or in a dirty parking lot of a hockey meeting. But I've had something on my mind for quite some time that I wanted to just talk authentically, mano y mano, from the heart, passionately about. And this concept of leaving a legacy, which is so cliche. Like, I can't even believe I'm using these words because it sounds so cliche, but it's so important. And one of the things, if you follow sort of my marketing and my bio and what I talk about, I'm not shy. I tell people with great pride that I was the CEO of a company and we tripled earnings in 3 years after being flat for so long. And we saw employee engagement, our culture got better. Employee engagement went up 15% as well. But the thing I never really talk about, because it's kind of weird, but I'm most proud of, like, it's not in the numbers, is that I truly believe I know I left a legacy. And for me, it just sounds so icky to say that because it sounds so braggy. And us women are, have a hard time saying that, those types of things. But I know this because I've gotten this feedback many, many times. And look, the word legacy is maybe feels like too much, but I want to use it because I want you to chase it. And what legacy means to me is that people remember me and will talk about me, employees, not necessarily maybe executives will forget who actually turned around the company and who was the CEO. Oh yeah, that's right. Like, they come and go, right? Your executives, your leaders, that gets shuffled freaking weekly. But the people that work for you, that's stamped in stone. Like, you might have had turnover. Obviously, you've had promotions, you've had changes, but once somebody's worked for you, like, they don't forget that. And they don't forget both the good and the bad. I just posted on LinkedIn a couple weeks ago about one of the most memorable, in a bad way, moments I had with a boss. And something she said that she will never remember she said, but stuck with me in a negative way for so, so long. And on the flip side, I know that there are many people, not all, that will never forget me and my leadership. And I get this feedback. I hear about it through others. I hear about it directly. They tell me, what an impact I made and how things really have never been the same. Like, that I created something special in them, in the company, in our culture, for their careers. And I've been thinking more and more about it because, we talk about all these hacks, and whether it's personal stuff, how to get through conflict or do a great resume, or, we talk about the leadership lessons and things like that. But, like, come on, guys, at the end of the day, don't you just want to leave a legacy? And guess what? It's not easy. Like, leaving a legacy isn't about your work your damn buns off. It just isn't. You didn't hack your way there. There were some uncomfortable things you had to do to get there. And as I reflected on it, I want to talk about the three things that I really want you to think about. One's sort of mindset-y, one's maybe in between, and then another's very tangible. And these things are partly things that I did, but honestly, just as much are things that I wish I would have known and that somebody would have sat me down, whether it was on a podcast or mano a mano across from a desk, and told me and taught me these things. And quite frankly, I don't think a lot of people actually can teach all these things, because a lot of what I've learned isn't just from my corporate run. It's from what I'm doing as a thought leader for a living, not just an entrepreneur, but a thought leader for a living type entrepreneur. That, man, oh man, I'm like, oh shit, if I had a do-over, which I don't plan to do, um, these are the things that I would have done differently, or I would have amped up, or I would have focused on, and I would have gotten out of like my day-to-day grind and done this shit. And I think I could have done even more amazing things, left an even bigger legacy, and had more fun doing it. And so I want to talk about these three things. I'll give some examples, bring some stories to life for some of them. But I really want you to soak in these and think hard about them. And then, like anything, just start taking small steps, practicing, experimenting about, doing these things as a leader. So the first one is probably the most nebulous. But as I was thinking through things and kind of what was the top three, like, just kept coming back to this simple but really, really hard principle too. And it's this. The first thing is, you have to care more about what your people think of you than the leaders above you. And it's so simple, and you're probably like, oh, hell yes. But it's so hard in practicality, because when you get that nastygram email from the executive, or that ridiculous turnaround for a big presentation they need or analysis they need, like, and they are quote unquote above you. They are these titles. They are, for many of us, these holier than thou executives, VPs, SVPs, C-suites. It's easy to lose our shit and get into protective mode and worry so much about what they think of you that you're going to sacrifice your reputation with your people. You're going to just roll things down the hill. You're going to give them the same maybe attitude or ridiculousness or curtness that they're giving you from above. And I'm telling you, first of all, the people above you, they actually really don't care about the minutia stuff. Well, they shouldn't anyway. Most of them that are P&L owners that have true sort of financial responsibility only should care about the results you bring. And when I say only care about the results, that isn't in the wake of being, a shitty person, a shitty leader. But the reality is, you have reign to do great things as long as you get results. And so for me, when I stepped into the CEO position, there was a month or two when I know that the executive that I reported into thought I was a little nutty. In fact, I remember went through this massive negotiation with our largest revenue generating partner. And I remember the email. It was so funny. I don't remember shit. Like, I remember some things so distinctly. The email that she said, "What happens if you lose them?" And I remember writing back, "Don't worry, we won't." And inside I wasn't positive. I was scared shitless. But I knew that if I could sit in the uncomfortable for a month or two and then just prove to her, like, what I'm doing, even though it may be unorthodox or maybe not the way you would handle things, it's going to get you results. And once it gets you results, like, you're not going to care that much about how I do it, as long as it's ethical and not shady. And so the first one, this one's really nebulous, but you have to walk in every day and say, what might people think of you is more important than what people above you. And if that's the case, every time you have to make a decision, whether it's a small one, when an email comes through and you're trying to decide whether to pass it on or push back or alter what the executive is looking for, um, or it's bigger than that. It's, feedback you got on your best employee and they want you to make decisions you don't want to make. Like, I want you to always think about how do I get my employees to care more about me than those above me? So that's number one. Number two, you have to freaking break the rules, people. Not always, but you have to break. Like, you are not, period, end of story, going to leave a legacy if you don't break the rules once in a while. And it's so easy to go about and say, okay, I'm not going to break them. Let me give you a couple of examples. And first of all, my HR business partner, I remember about 50% of the things I went to her with, she was like, "Oh, Erin, like, no." And I would listen to her sometimes. She's like, that's not the hill to die on. But about 50% of the things where I was really trying to push things, she would work with me and understand that there was just so much that I just didn't agree with how we did it and wasn't going to be quiet about it. Um, I remember this one time, actually a couple years into my CEO role, I don't remember what sparked it. I mean, it wasn't me just being a feminist and breaking the rules, break the rules, but there was some catalyst. And I said to her, I said, I want an analysis, a gender analysis on what the pay is in the organization across genders, across like roles. And I'm sure it was after we had done year-end comp stuff and I was starting to see patterns that I didn't like and men making more in the same roles as women, but I didn't have, obviously didn't have credible data. And I remember working with her to bring that to bear. And to be honest, they came back and I got shushed. I got like, nope, we're not doing that. But I will tell you, like a year later, the enterprise, they did it on a massive scale. Like, I remember going and they looked at gender and they also looked at, there was another factor. So it wasn't just gender, but like a year later, they did a massive behind the scenes equity analysis. And I remember getting to go to some of my employees and be like, you're getting like a $14,000 raise, like, which you don't get to do often. And of course, like the pretense is a little bit weird, like you've been underpaid, but it was such a good feeling. And I remember thinking, yeah, they pushed back on me a year earlier. And I'm not saying that Erin's request was the catalyst for this. I'm like not that naive, but I can't help but think that that didn't play a small role in it and that I was pushing for what's right. And eventually the company sort of stepped up and took a look at that. And that was so important to me. We had not only more women than men in our organization, we had more women leaders. And so we were able to do that. The other story, which I know I've told this one before, but this is such a good example of, you know, it, you have to break the rules. So when we started to turn around the company around financially through a couple of negotiations, I sort of declared our culture is going to be our differentiator. Period. End of story. Like, looking across our competition, we didn't have the most assets under management. We didn't have the biggest, technology. We didn't, if we were doing the SWOT analysis, like we had a little bit of an integration story with Aetna, but like I knew the one thing they couldn't replicate is if I can get the best damn people because I have the best damn culture and that translates into everything we do, our service, our sales, our implementation, that could be the deal breaker. And so I was introduced to a leadership company and decided to do some work with them. And we ended up doing pretty extensive work. We did, I think, 3 or 4 leadership deep dive training sessions in all of our major offices, including the home office where I was, but also out in our field offices like Omaha and Fort Wayne, Chicago. I think we did one there. And then we also culminated that into a 2.5-day leadership summit in Hartford. And we had over 100 leaders. I think it was at just around 100. All of our people leaders in the organization came in for that event. I mean, we're talking customer service agents who, like, I remember visiting them and they're like, I got this invitation. Am I really supposed to like travel and come out? I said, yes. Like, these are people that never got to do business travel or, get to indulge in training. And so they all came out and we did that. It was just incredible. The energy was great. It also, quite honestly, I don't talk about this. Not only did it developer leaders and energize people, but it also gave us permission then. There were a few leaders that were on the cusp. And once we all went through sort of that training and development and they weren't able to step up and sort of turn around some of the challenges they had, we let them go. Like, didn't feel bad about them. We had given everything we could. And so it was a great way to say, okay, now that we've neutralized, everybody has this sort of training and development and opportunities, and some are thriving. And we saw where some weren't. And it was just time to move them on. But anyway, so we did this. We spent about $350,000. Now, did we have a quote unquote budget for this? No, we did not. Nobody actually ever has a budget for anything that's going to leave you a legacy. Sorry to go on a little bit of a rant, but like I hear this all the time. Like I'll hear actually sometimes with my work, they'll be like, "Oh, well, we don't have a budget." I'm like, nobody I've ever worked with had a budget for, nobody sat down in September and was like, let's put aside, 20, 30 grand to do some work on authenticity to help differentiate our culture and our company. Like, oh, nobody did. And in fact, if you've ever been part of the budgeting process, like it's not that scientific. Like usually it's like, what's your run rate from before? Where can you increase it? Where can you not? Like yes, sometimes you budget for like, oh, we know that we have to invest in like new office space or whatever, but it's not that proven. And so so many people I work with, will go to leaders and then they'll say, we don't have the budget. And they'll be like, oh, okay. And then they turn around and they're like, we don't have the budget. It's like, of course you don't. Of course you don't. Like, no great company actually had the budget. And then you're like, well, I don't understand how you can be fiscally responsible. And sometimes you have to take a chance on things. And yes, I was lucky. I ran a P&L, right? I got to move both levers. And so I got to determine those things that I thought would give us a return. And oh my God, I mean, we tripled our earnings in 3 years. And we would not have done that if we stuck to our budget and exactly what we had. And we didn't shake things up and do things differently. So you have to push back. And the funny story about mine was we had such great success. Employee engagement scores were like best in the company, improved 15% in 2 years. It's like unheard of, especially when you have like 800, 900 people, service organization, et cetera. And I'll never forget it was a solid year after we'd done all this training. I was actually, I think maybe even had announced my retirement. I can't remember. And somebody from corporate HR reached out and said, oh, I want to talk to you about the work you did. And I'm like, finally, somebody wants to learn from the unique, bold stuff that we're doing here that's helped us turn around this company, that's helped me build a legacy. And so we get on a call and I'm thinking, oh, they want to know all our best practices and what do we do? And they want to leverage it because they see the golden child that, the company has turned into, that Erin's turned around. And literally all they were doing was slapping me on the hand. They said, oh, we have companies that already do this work and da-da-da-da. It's like the funniest, most ridiculous conversation I've ever had. Like, okay, first of all, the money's already been spent. I run the P&L. We've grown it significantly. But there are rule followers. And let me tell you, the people that were on that call are never going to come close to leaving the quote unquote legacy at what they do. I'm sorry. I don't mean to be mean, but really? Not at all interested in what was the impact, what were the results, what was unique about what you did, what can we learn from it? So that's the second thing. You have to break the rules, whether it's the budget stuff and you have to go back and you have to fight for something, or you are getting, HR templates and processes and, I mean, one of the ways I broke the rules is I was supposed to have corporate comms write all these like messages for me. And after the first draft of one of them where I couldn't understand a freaking thing he said, I just largely scrapped them and I wrote them myself. So you have to find those plays. How can you break the rules, or at least 50% rule them to half normal, half new? That's the only way you're going to leave a legacy. That's number 2.
Hey guys, Erin here. Stop. Do not do it. Don't fast forward. I have something too important. I have a couple of very passive aggressive questions to ask you that you don't want to miss. Here they are. 1, do you find yourself often comparing yourself to others? Like, they work harder than me. They get noticed more than me. They have better luck than me. They're smarter than me. Or do you also just feel exhausted from having to always work as hard, if not harder, than everybody else to stand out and succeed? I know you have these challenges. We all do. And this is why I wrote the 50% rule. And I know you need to read another book like you need a hole in the head. But I'm telling you, this book and this rule, I'm obsessed with it. And it has changed my life. It has changed the lives of others around us. And it has also been the formula for success behind so many successful people. Savannah Bananas, Hamilton, Weird Al Yankovic. The 50% rule is the simplest shortcut to stop comparing, stop copying, stop chasing other people, and like literally compete in your league of your own. There isn't a day that doesn't go by where I stop myself and I'm like, oh, she did a talk that I wish I could do. She's got more. No, it doesn't matter. Because we don't compete in the same league. I compete in a league of my own because I am constantly 50% ruling things. So if you're interested in this concept, which, by the way, is more fun as a team sport, but at least start with yourself. You cannot miss this book. It's not only powerful, it's really freaking fun to read. That is always my number one goal. It was my number one goal with my first book. It's my number one goal with the 50% rule. I want to make it enjoyable to read it. Why? So that you read it. So if you feel like you are stuck with these comparison cramps or just all the symptoms that I talk about in the book of sleep running syndrome, self-doubt gout, and pioneer paralysis, and well, you have to read the book to find out more, then just go buy the darn book. Easiest way, go to Amazon, search the 50% rule, and I cannot wait to hear how you 50% rule things.
Number 3. You got to be a thought leader. This is the one. I really wish I would have known so much of what I know now. We think being a thought leader is having a good idea in a meeting, having a fancy, PowerPoint presentation about a strategy. Like, that's not being a thought leader. Being a thought leader is not, first of all, it's about having leading thoughts that nobody else has. But it's also about packaging them and spreading them well beyond your company. So, give an example. One of my what I call coach consulting clients, or business coaching. These are executive leaders who don't want the normal like executive coaching. I'm sorry, kind of fluff, but instead I coach. We slow down, we listen, we go through challenges, I ask lots of questions, but we then apply it practically to what they do. An upcoming meeting, a upcoming challenge with their employee. And so one of my clients is really, really smart, really thoughtful, has great followership with their team. And I thought, let's double down on this for 2 reasons. One, the more you can package up the way you think and the way you transfer knowledge to your team, the easier it is for them to remember. It's such a gift. The second is you get noticed. You stand out. This is somebody who wants to eventually gain a C-suite position. And how do you get there? You can either sacrifice everything and work harder than everybody else, which you're not going to learn from me, or you can help unique people. And so just to give you a tangible example, one of the things around thought leadership is this packaging concept. So she often talks about how she's able to really, dissect complicated numbers and tell a story to her business constituents and break things down to make them much simpler sort of take that craziness out of them. And she's talked about one of the reasons she can do this is because she's been in finance roles, but she's also been in business roles and has this perspective. So I sat and asked her a bunch of questions about like how does she arrive and what is her thought process and what drives her beyond just professionally, like going back to her childhood. And what we uncovered was we were actually looking to name sort of the way she did things, but what I uncovered was this pattern where she really focused on what scared people. And it goes back to when she was younger and, how she observed her parents and how finances would scare them, but then also is translated into her role as a business executive and as a financial um, executive in the healthcare space. And she, has this unique way of thinking, okay, going into a meeting, what could scare the executives? What could scare my business partners? What could scare my employees? And what, in terms of everything from what could scare them because it's complicated and confusing to could scare them because they're a business leader and this could, make a dent, a negative dent in their results and their P&L. And she talked about how she really used that and how much she cared about what other people were scared of. And so we came up with this just sort of this concept of using scare and sort of pithy ways to talk about moving from scaring to caring and how she could start to use those words to package back to her team first and foremost as sort of a brand of their financial team, like that they were constantly every time they had an issue, like they would stop and say, what would scare people? And it's just a little tiny, tiny shift. It's just a small, unique way to think about things, but it's catchy. It's unique, right? It's hard to forget, like thinking about what scares people and then, turning it into something that they care about. And so that's the first thing. Like, I hear so many leaders like, oh, I don't know. It's just easy for me. That's the most selfish bullshit you could ever do. Sorry. Like, if you don't have time to reflect and go, okay, how do I do certain things that I know I'm really good at or are unique that I need to pass on to others? And if you don't reflect and at least start to dissect them and explain them, that's step one. But step two is when you start to name them or come up with a metaphor or you see this. This is a lot of what I've learned, and you see it in my books, you see it in my keynotes. I name things like compromise calculation, sleep running syndrome, the 6 principles of strategic authenticity, a framework, right? Humans, like part of being a thought leader isn't just having those leading thoughts, but it's packaging it in a way that other people can replicate it and learn about it. The second thing on this thought leadership track is you got to get out there and put something somewhere, whether that's blogging or writing on LinkedIn, or maybe it's your internal intranet. Because same thing, don't be selfish with your thoughts. And don't, like, back to breaking the rules, don't freaking use an excuse like, oh, I don't know what the company's going to let me do. Just like go ask for forgiveness. Like, go out, be bold, put your thoughts out there. And if you don't want to do it in writing, I mean, the other place that I like see so much opportunity is in speaking. Like, this is the one place, and obviously now I'm a professional speaker, so it's obvious. But I'm like, oh my God, I wish I would have realized this. There are so many conferences, and you guys have been to them. Like, most of the speakers aren't keynote speakers like me that are professionally trained and actually can entertain you and give you those leading thoughts in a packaged way and give you new intellectual property. Most of those people are from the companies and they're trying their damnedest not to market their product because that's like the 101, like Salesforce. You can't come in and then like try to promote Salesforce. You need to do a presentation, but like most people just kind of suck. And so if you have any inkling or any natural ability or desire to speak, like, oh my God, I wish I would have done this. Oh, I wish because I did. I mean, I did. I spoke at conferences, spoke internally, but not intentionally. Like, God damn it, I wish I would have gone out, probably taken a program or some sort of coaching because I think I was natural. No, I know I was natural. I just definitely wasn't trained. Like now that I'm a professional speaker, like I recognize just how hard it is to go from naturally good to great. Um, and I would have gone out on the circuit. I would have spoken. I don't know about necessarily what, like, because my brain's so far from that, but I would have been a thought leader in our space when I was CEO out at as many conferences as I could have. Okay, I'm lying. I wouldn't have been at as many because the kids were small, but I would have strategically worked with my sales team, marketing team, and said, what are the like 10 places where I can go out and be a thought leader and create this brand recognition for Payflex that nobody else could? I wish I would have done that because like I knew that our culture was key, but me as a thought leader out there with the sass and pizzazz I had, which all of my counterparts did not have. They were the typical, like, mostly men, buttoned up, you know, outwork mindset. And that just wasn't me. I had an advantage because I was authentic, right? That was my strategic advantage. And I really wish I would have done more in terms of written thought leadership. But I definitely would have gotten on the speaking circuit, not to make money like I do now, but to build our brand and to talk about and And honestly, when I say talk about things, I probably wouldn't even have talked about health savings accounts and flexible spending accounts and things like that. That was our business. I actually would have probably talked about softer skilled stuff about whether it was leading as a woman or if I would have figured out the authenticity thing then, I would have talked about that. I probably would have had some version of what I talk about now that was a precursor, a preamble, that's on the side of things that isn't just strategic. Because you guys know, you go to these conferences, like, you need a break from the like continuing ed type BS. Most people want to go there and grow as a human, as a leader, as a business executive. I could have done that. But the good news is I'm doing it now. But the better news is you can do that. You can go find ways, the best outlet for you to be a thought leader, both internally and externally, so you can leave a legacy. So those are the three things. Care more about what your team thinks than what your leaders above you think of you. Break the rules. You got to freaking break some of the rules. Be a thought leader. Have leading thoughts, but package those leading thoughts in a way that others can really follow, both inside and outside your company. If you don't have a goal as a leader to leave a legacy, like, really? Is it just about the paycheck? Is it just about the equity? I mean, all that stuff could go away in a heartbeat. Could go away in a heartbeat. Once you have those employees that you've left a legacy with that talk about you in a good way at their family parties, LinkedIn posts, with their employees as they pass down the best lessons that you gave them, like, that's what it should be all about. That's what I want for you. So make sure you go out there, leave a legacy. Have a good day.
Hey, it's Erin with a teeny request. If you have ever gotten any value from this podcast and you'd like us to stick around, plus you want it to continue to grow so we can kind of swindle bigger and more knowledgeable guests to join us and to keep providing you with tangible and inspiring actions you can take to achieve the career and life you deserve, could you please just take 1 minute to leave us a rating and a review? Those reviews go a long way in attracting guests to the show, and candidly, they really make Nicole and I's day. We see you. We really do. So when you have the time and inspiration, we'd love to see a rating and review from you. Thank you.